As we mentioned in the last section, ATP contains 3 phosphate groups. There's going to be energy that is held in those bonds between each of the phosphate groups that is higher than the energy in most of the other chemical bonds that you can find. When you need energy, hydrolysis will occur and very quickly break those high energy bonds, which means that 1 or 2 phosphate groups can split off. Of course, when you're breaking those chemical bonds, you're releasing energy. That shows you what ATP looks like. So you see the green circles on the right. 1 or possibly 2 of those can break off quickly through hydrolysis. So the reactions in the body to convert energy they are not terribly efficient. So cells will convert energy stored into ATP with about a 50% efficiency rate. The rest of that energy is lost as heat. Once that energy is converted, it is used for chemical reactions on the cellular level. Again, about 50% is lost as heat. So the overall efficiency of converting the food that you eat into work that your cells need to do is about 25%. The rest, that 75% that remains, is released as heat, which is going to be super important for maintaining our core body temperature when we're at rest. Where does this metabolic activity occur? We have trillions of cells, and it's happening every nanosecond of those cells' lives. The type and the extent of the amount of metabolic activity that occurs is going to be highly dependent on the type of cell. Adipose cells don't need a lot of energy because they're just storing fat. Liver cells have enormous amount of functions. So the liver has well over 400 functions. So they are metabolically active, and in fact are the most metabolically active cells within the body. So it shows you a typical animal cell on the left and shows you the mitochondria, which is where ATP is created within cells. Mitochondria is a fascinating organelle. There's some speculation, and which is backed up by science, which indicates that mitochondria actually may have been separate entities way back when, soon after the, relatively speaking, after the Big Bang, and then ended up living within cells to produce energy because of a delightful symbiotic relationship between the mitochondria organism, if it was one, and an actual cell. The mitochondria that you have actually comes from your maternal lineage. Do some research on that. That's outside the scope of this course, but it's fascinating. Great video on enzymes. So we know about enzymes, which are protein-based, and metabolic reactions pretty much always require enzymes to happen. Those enzymes often need assistance to help them, and they are known as coenzymes, and we'll talk more about those when we get to the vitamins section. These guys are going to be small organic molecules that associate closely with a whole bunch of enzymes. They'll be specific, but they're not protein themselves. Oftentimes they're vitamins. The innumerable relationships between coenzyme helpers and their specific enzymes are going to differ in detail. Without the appropriate coenzyme helper, most enzymes will not function correctly. As I mentioned, vitamins can act as coenzymes, so some of the B vitamins will act as coenzymes that are going to release energy. And that shows you what is happening when, depending on what you eat, gives you a various pathways about what happens with proteins and carbohydrates and fats relative to metabolic reactions, that is. The amino acids that you eat have to undergo what's known as deamination. So we know that amino acids can either be metabolized for energy or used to make fat, store fat. And when that happens, you need to remove nitrogen atoms. So there will be two byproducts that are going to be produced. One is the carbon backbone that doesn't have its amino group. That's often what's known as a keto acid. The other byproduct is ammonia. And that is a toxic compound that is identical, chemically speaking, to the ammonia that you find as a cleaning solution. If you are undergoing a lot of deamination, you are producing larger quantities than the body can process or remove, and the blood acid-base balance can be disrupted. So it's super important that your kidneys, which actually get rid of that nitrogen, are working well. Great little video on protein catabolism. So what happens to ammonia during those metabolic reactions, which, by the way, are going to happen in our friend the liver, that metabolically active organ? Small amounts of ammonia are basically being produced continuously as those deamination reactions are happening. Some of that ammonia is important because you need nitrogen to make some non-essential amino acids. So the liver will pretty quickly combine the remaining ammonia with carbon dioxide to make the less toxic urea. That urea will be put into the circulatory system where it moves off to the kidneys, and the kidneys will get rid of urea in the blood. And it is going to be, you're going to excrete it as urine. When your kidneys are functioning well, you have no problems with this. When your liver is functioning well, you have no problem with capturing all of the ammonia that might be floating around. So normally, a healthy liver will trap all that ammonia, turn it into urea, and release that into the bloodstream, which will then, the urea will then travel off to the kidneys, as I said, and get excreted. If the liver is diseased, you have cirrhosis, or you have fatty liver, or you have hepatic cancer, your blood ammonia levels will rise. If your kidneys do not work correctly, blood levels of urea will rise, and in both of those conditions, you can have severe health problems relatively quickly.